These are my Pioneer CS-88As from about 1971, 72-ish. That's about that time. They were early 70s speakers. Give you a little background. These were actually my father's speakers, and he's had them since I was little. So you're talking about 5 decades. I've been around these and heard these and seen these speakers. My father a few years ago passed away, and obviously I've inherited a lot of his equipment, and these specifically, and these have been a center stone of a lot of our living room, and they've just been there. And he as he got older, he used these less and less and less, and I always wondered why when I started getting into music more and more and more when my teens and adolescence. Different music. Obviously he was more into classical and kind of like maybe a little bit of yacht rock or Beach Boys, but definitely classical, Beethoven, Mozart, etc. But I was more into metal, Metallica, Merciful Fate, Slayer, for example. But I always wanted to hear how these speakers sounded with those genres of music, and I did. I played them through cassette tapes with moderate success. I mean, they played well. Certainly sounded better than my boombox upstairs in my room or outside, for example, or even in the cars. We didn't have initially great stereos in cars. And when he passed away, these needed some definite refurbishment. I'll show a couple of pictures of the interiors, of basically how they were. The capacitors were so out of spec, and I bought audio quality capacitors. Here's a couple of pictures here of going through them. There's internal crossovers for basically 4 different levels, and I have the specifications here, and I'll read them to you basically. But you basically have your subs, that's the 12-inch subwoofer down there, and they're not like earth-shattering subs. I mean, you really still need a dedicated subwoofer, and I do have one. I have a Klipsch subwoofer here, which definitely helps in the preamp that I have. Separates out the lows, so anything below 60 hertz, it goes to the Klipsch, but anything above that, anything from 80 hertz and above sounds pretty good. But if you're thinking you're having club level bass out of this, that's not the type of speaker for you. But very good clarity, I think, especially in the mids and the highs. I'm not poo-pooing the bass coming out of these speakers. It's just not what a modern speaker would basically give you for bass response. Now, mids and highs, absolutely. So it's a 12-inch subwoofer. Then you have 2 mid-range 5-inch cone tweeters. That's what you see on the left side. Then you have a 3-inch tweeters, 2 of them, and cone-type tweeters, and you have a super tweeter, which is the one on the top right side. Right, so the crossovers here, and you can attenuate them with switches in the back. And here's a picture of what those look like in the back. But basically, the lows are basically cut off about 450 hertz or so, and then the mids and the highs, they're cut off about 3600 hertz, and then the highs and super highs are at 14,000 hertz. So it's pretty wide gamut there. But as you can see, the lows, 450 hertz, for example, that's pretty, that's, and below, that's what that 12 inches pumping out is, 450 hertz, and you would expect it to be much lower. I mean, if I would probably, in the future, if I was recapping this again, I would probably lower that to something below 100 hertz, for example, or maybe 80 to 100 hertz, maybe 120 hertz. But I kept them stock. I kept the specification as they were. All right. It's 8 ohm speakers, so pretty high impedance. Frequency range is 35 hertz to 20,000 hertz, pretty standard. Very efficient speakers, 97 decibels per watt. I mean, that's pretty good as far as efficiency goes. So these are, as big as these are, and all the drivers that these things have, they're 80 watts. So I was pretty surprised about that. But again, it goes to the efficiency. You don't need a lot of wattage to drive these things well and have it sound very, very good. All right, and then basically these are about 26 inches high by 15 inches wide, and then about 13 inches deep. Each one of these weighs almost 38 pounds, so they're pretty big. Now, other than the capacitors and doing a little deoxit on the inside, what I had to do was, and I'll just bring these in a little closer. These drivers, and we'll zoom in here. These mid-range and basically the woofer here, these are cloth, believe it or not. So these do not break down. They'll probably be just as good long after I'm in the ground. These will be fine. And obviously the super tweeter is fine also. However, these tweeters, these cone tweeters, as you can see, they're a little bit different. I had to refoam them. And they sell kits specifically for these speakers in order to refoam them. And it was pretty easy. You basically just take, I didn't have to take the whole thing apart to refoam these. You just take out these four, these fall out, and then you can just clean them. And I could probably do a whole video of these. You can clean these, and they will basically glue them on, and it works like pretty fantastic. So these are very well. There's a grate to this. I'll show you a picture of a grate right here of what they look like. I like them without the grates, but if you have kids or pets, for example, these grates are pretty substantial and they do a lot of protection. So there you go. I can't complain. I think these are very clear. They still need a subwoofer. I definitely believe so. However, that 12 pumps out really good volume from 120 hertz all the way up to 450 hertz. And again, there's a switch in the back. Here's a picture where basically you can change and attenuate. What you're really doing is you're attenuating or basically bringing down the signal to either the highs and the mids. Basically, you really can't change the way that the crossover is designed, what you're doing for the subwoofer. So I have them up to high and high because basically there is no attenuation, but you could set the tweeter to high, mid, and low, and basically if you have it on high, if you have mid, it's bringing the tweeters down a notch. I gotta look up how many decibels that is, but it brings it down, and if you have a low, it brings it down even further. And then mid-range, again, it would basically bring it down even further, and then the lows are, they're just wide open. They're completely, you really can't change that the way it is. So this is the first video of this. Maybe the second video we'll go into more of the repair and what it looked like, and here I'll play a little video of how they sound. I'll try to pick something in classical music so I don't get a copyright strike, or if I do, it's not a terrible copyright strike. And I hope you enjoy. Thank you very much.